just out of curiosity, is there anyone in the room who has not had a labor issue or challenge over the past couple of years? Anyone who has not? All right. I see 0 hands. So we're all on the same page, and those are challenges that we deal with as well. As you can see on the screen behind me here, wanted skilled labor. It's something we're going to talk about a little bit. Unfortunately, it's something that we're not able to fix, but I think there's some good points here that we're able to touch on.
So for me, the biggest thing is, like we're talking about, we can't fix this, right? But I firmly believe that there's something that's within your power, within your control, that can have a significant impact on the current labor situation. And I'm ready for the moans and groans, the T word, training. And I already, I know where you're coming from. It's you don't have time. You're not a training company. It's not your forte. You wouldn't know where to start even if you were to begin doing something like this. I hear the objections. I understand. But I think that once you hear Matt and Nick's perspectives, hopefully it opens your eyes to doing some small things to make an impact. So we'll hear from Matt. He's the owner of the company in terms of why is training important to his business.
When I think of how education and training has impacted my business and why it's changed my focus is, I remember back in the days when I originally started the company that I kind of used to hoard everything, and I was afraid to show people how we made the sausage behind the curtain, so to speak. Wanted to keep it all to myself. I was afraid that people were going to leave and start their own companies and who knows what else. And we were I was very selfish about that. But once my eyes were open to it and we started bringing it into the organization, I quickly learned that there's no way Deckerscape is getting to where it's going to go without great people behind us. And the only way to get great people behind us is to train and educate and to implement processes. And that's what made us who we are today, is believing enough in ourselves and being confident enough in ourselves to open up and to do those things with our organization. And you'll be amazed at what people do and that you're not the smartest guy in the room, right? There's a ton of smart people in my organization that know far greater and more than I do, and they're ultimately what brought us to where we're at today. And it's through these things, that the education, the processes, and the consistency and all of that.
So there's a couple things that jump out to me in what he said, and the self-awareness, number one, was huge. But the thing that he said is you need great people to take your company to where you want to go, and the only way to have those truly great people is through training, through education, through processes that you have in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good example of some training that we've incorporated at Unilock Michigan at our facility is in our production or plant area. With that, it can be an incredibly dangerous place, not unlike a job site. So any new employee that joins on in a production aspect actually shadows an existing team member for several days until they've totally learned all of the safety procedures and it becomes second nature.
So the next thing is, that's great, but I don't have time to do it. So we'll hear Matt's take on that.
I don't know about you, and maybe I'm alone here, but I remember the days where I felt the need that I had to be on every single job and I had to watch every single detail. And I knew with my aspirations and wants of my business to get to where it was going to go and where I wanted it to be, there was no way that I could really do that. And so I started doing some of the training myself, but also I'm a high speed, fast paced kind of guy. So patience is not a virtue of mine, and I wasn't always the best educator, so to speak. So through the years, started working really close with a guy who's since become our education coordinator, Nick Grand. He's been instrumental in our program, and while it started off a little awkward, a little clunky, we didn't know where to go and what we were doing, we basically just started. And Nick has really taken that and grown it to something that was non-existent, to something that's instrumental in our business, and it's giving me the comfort and the ability to know that while I don't need to be on every job, I know that I've got a team behind me that through this educational process, through some of our long tenured team members, that these things are getting done consistently and to the high level of our standards that we want on every application, and it's just been, it's been great.
So a big thing that jumps out for me with that is Matt talks about how he tried to do it himself, but he realized it's not my wheelhouse. It's important. I need this to push my company forward. I'm the owner and I'm going to do it. But he realized that he wasn't the one that needed to actually do it. He needed other people in his organization to spearhead that effort and make it happen. So he empowered someone on the team. And by doing so, not only did he allow these things to take place that he didn't really have the time or maybe even the skill set to do, but he also provided an opportunity for that team member to have continued growth and grow in a leadership capacity and give him opportunities down the road within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good example of that within our organization, within Unilock's organization, would actually be the Contractor Advantage seminar that you're all attending today. It's a very large event with a ton of different things that go into it. It's something that I can't certainly do myself. It's certainly something that not one individual can do themselves. And with all of the different skill sets within our group, everybody's jumped in and taken the driver's seat in one specific aspect of it. We have our customer service department that's helped us out immensely. The group stepped up at different points from the displays that you see here today to the presentation that you see here today. So that'd be a good correlation or example of that internally.
So hopefully somebody out there is starting to think like, maybe this is making some sense. Maybe they're not crazy. Maybe I can tackle this training topic. But big question is, how does everything we're talking about at this point relate to labor, right? We haven't even talked about that yet. So we'll hear from Nick next, and he's the guy that Matt referenced on his team that's spearheading the training.
We've seen benefits through our training process, in the point that we can go to most companies go to a jacuzzi kind of tub, if you will, where there's limited skilled guys. Everybody's fighting over those skilled guys to better their companies. And we can take through our education process and everything, and we can go to an Olympic-sized pool where there's a plethora of different people with ideas and skill sets, and we can develop them through our training and processes into what we need them to be and what they ultimately want to be. We don't necessarily have to go and grab anybody from this room. We can go to any room, anywhere, and grab a person that wants a job and make them into a career. There's a career path set in stone, in writing, how you can get from point A to point B. You can go from what they say, a wheelbarrow pusher, to running the job.
So I think that's the big thing right there, right? He talks about this Olympic-sized pool. No, that's not an Olympic-sized pool, but it's a pool, okay? You get the correlation. He talks about how typically in the industry we're all fighting over the same guys. We're fighting over this room, this pool of people. Well, they have things in place because of how they focus on training and education and development and processes. They can now go outside of the normal pool, and if there's a great guy, you know, that they get a great impression from at a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons or a grocery store, they can bring that person in, and they're really looking for will. They're hiring for the will, and they have the ability to train for the skill. And that guy could be a wheel pusher today, but he could have Nick's position and be running a crew later. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at our team overall, not just in the sales department, the people that are presenting to you here today, but in all of our departments from production, customer service, yard, et cetera, there's a lot of people that have actually joined our team over the years that are not from the industry. So we've gone away from, in a lot of degrees, looking for that big fish in a small pond and looking for just a fish in a large pond or the ocean or what have you. If the team member's the right fit, they can be very successful. We have examples of people on our team from retail, from the grocery industry, from all sorts of particular places. If it's the right person, they're going to gel or match well with your team, and you have a good training practice put into place. You have the opportunity to certainly broaden the amount of people that you have available to work for you.
So next we hear from Nick in terms of other benefits they've seen beyond the Olympic-sized pool, as he says it.
In addition to the education process, I'm also a team leader in the company, and the processes that we have implemented here at Deckerscape have helped alleviate the team leader's mindset on a job. So in the mornings, we get in, the team leader can go in, talk with the office and find out what their plan is for the day and know that their team behind them has their truck loaded proper. And they don't have to think about little things like, is my trailer got the right tools? Do we have gas cans full? They can concentrate solely on how they're going to succeed on their project, get their job flow set up, and not worry about the little intricacies that come along with the job.
So there's really two big things for me with this. You know, Nick as a team leader, the additional benefits they've seen through training and training people on their processes and getting them up to speed is, number one, as a team leader, he has less stress and worry, right? And the second one is efficiency. Who here doesn't want to be more efficient? I didn't trick anybody by the question. So you all want to be more efficient, right? Like, efficiency is key to what you guys are doing every day. And because they have processes that they're actively training and educating people on, they're more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And to share an example of what helps us become more efficient and decrease our stress level, every year we have or most years we have an annual sales meeting where all of the sales departments from across all of our groups get together. That's where we get new product training and talk about things on the product ends of things. But we also spend some time on actual sales training as well. And time management training that we've had would be a great example of that. Through that time management training, you're able to become more efficient as a person, and while becoming more efficient, it's actually decreasing your stress level and ultimately making people feel more comfortable. So a good example of training there.
So anybody a little more open to this whole concept than they were when they got here? Nobody wants to admit it? It's not hitting anybody? All right. Well, if it is, you don't want to raise your hand, you might be wondering, well, how the heck do I start all this? How do I get to the point that they're at?
One piece of advice that I would give out would be, you know, in plain English, just start. Just start doing it. You know, it's going to be rough. It's going to be, you're going to stumble and fall and get back up and just keep the ball rolling. You know, just let it evolve as it goes.
So Nick said it, just start. Just start with one thing. Find something that's a bottleneck for you right now, a roadblock, something that the crew continuously gets hung up on, or a problem you have to get involved in. Figure out a way to put a process in place to solve that, and then do that with something else, and do that with something else. And keep this START acronym in mind. And maybe this is a picture or a note moment for somebody, but start with one process, train the team, assess how it's working, refine the process where you need to, and then train again. And if you do that time and time and time again, you're going to go from one step to another step to another step, and before you know it, you're going to become a training organization.
Absolutely. I love this acronym, START. Another one would be the Nike. The Nike.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Thank you. Just get out there and do it. There's actually been a lot of time studies and success studies that have been completed over the years that have shown that each hour, each day, and each week that goes by without implementing a good idea makes it significantly less likely that it's actually going to come to fruition. So when you have that idea, take the first step, do something. And going back years ago, just to give you a quick example of Unilock situation, we had some challenges with making sure that our yard and everything was locked up and shut down properly at the end of the day. Well, our plant manager pulled everyone together, including the yard people, and said, hey, Joe, you're responsible for locking the gates. If you don't do it, make sure someone else does it, but you're the guy. And from there, we actually built onto and improved those processes over time, where we have a very solid process right now.
So there's different resources we've got available to help you guys with things. A great one is UTech Online. Maybe that's onboarding a new hire. Maybe that's spring refresh training. But big picture, there's 7 classes. You can take it anytime, any place. There's 2,400 classes that have been completed year to date. Two great things come from that. Number one, you get this certificate, which the person gets to feel good about. So I get to stand up here and tell you guys that I did that, and I know what I'm talking about because there's a certificate to prove it. The other thing is if your whole team does this, that's a great sales tool. You can show one of these to the client and say, all the guys that are going to come work on this job site have been through this training and know what to do. And by the way, there's one for you, Kara. This tech guide, it's pocket size for a reason. It fits in the pocket, fits in the glove box. Make sure the guys have that as a reference. Not something a lot of them are going to need often, but there's a lot of great stuff in there. It's pocket size and small for a reason. This is something we developed a while ago and talked about in previous seminars. It's a job site progression. We've got it for pavers and for walls. There's basically several bullet points for each step in the process. You want to train your guys on how to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the process and ready for the next step. Great thing to post in the trailer just as a quick visual reference for them to look at. And the guys got some downtime. What's the next step? What tools can I get ready? Along the same lines, you got a new guy. A lot of times you got to hit the ground running and just throw him out in the field. Here's some things he can do to stay, we call it take initiative. It's really for him to be efficient, so he's not standing around doing nothing. Understanding the team member, the team leader, and the foreman have different roles and responsibilities. This was a whole presentation that don't have time to go into today, but a big takeaway from it was this. Defined roles and responsibilities. When each person has a defined role and responsibility, things become easier and the team works better together because they know where they fit, they know their role, and they know how they're contributing to the ultimate success that you're trying to build. So I want to leave you with this final quote from Benjamin Franklin. Hopefully you all know who he is. If you don't, it's a whole separate issue. But he said, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn." So if you're going to adopt any of this stuff with training, involve, empower, utilize and leverage the team, and hopefully this helps some of you guys. Thank you.